Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind. Ralph Waldo Emerson. This is Citadelium, episode 16, and I'm your host, Yuri Degaya. Today I want to talk about sovereignty. And I covered sovereignty in one of my episodes already, and I talked about sovereignty in terms of building a citadel. So in the future we'll have a lot of citadels around the world that will strive to become completely sovereign. So we may have some citadels that will be part of government, obviously, or part of the current nation states, right? Because it's quite a difficult task to actually just grab a piece of land and claim sovereignty. You will probably get crushed under the weight of the government and their military. So, but the long-term task of this whole procedure is to create as many city-states, as many Liechtensteins and Hong Kongs and Singapores as possible, and to essentially claim sovereignty for them. If not 100% complete sovereignty, then at least a certain degree of autonomy, which is a good place to start too. But today I would like to talk about the 7 domains of sovereignty when it comes to your personal sovereignty or individual sovereignty. This was inspired by some of the books that I've read before, such as The Sovereign Individual, and also from the conversations that I've had with fellow Bitcoiners that kind of lead towards the same thing. We all have the same ideas about this, and we talk about these things because we share these values, right? And I think it's very important to understand that there are different types of sovereignty, because a lot of people think about sovereignty one-dimensionally, and they only imagine that sovereignty just means complete independence from the state, for example. I would like to cover a few of them here, and we will start with the first domain of sovereignty, which is the sovereignty of the mind. So, the sovereignty of the mind, as the name says, is essentially the independence of your mind from the influence of other actors out there, from other inputs. There is obviously a lot of inputs that you go through throughout the day, and you are attacked essentially by all kinds of inputs throughout the day of your life. And the biggest input, I think, right now is the input that is provided to you by these external actors like the government and mass media and social media platforms. A lot of people, as you may know, and you may be one of them, spend a lot of time in front of their screens, whether it's a laptop, whether it's a smartphone or TV, and they just get attacked by all these inputs, all this information and data that comes from the screen and into their mind. So that has a direct effect on how you start thinking, right? Because if you are fully immersed in this type of environment where all your opinions and thoughts and even actions shaped by what you consume from the screen, then I can tell you right away that your mind is not sovereign. Your mind is not sovereign because it's someone else telling you what to do, how to think, what to be outraged with, and all that stuff. The greatest examples are obviously found in the mass media and social media. There's deliberate viral campaigns that form public opinion. These are all known tricks of propaganda as well. They are covered quite extensively in some of the literature on propaganda. So this is not a secret. It's all out there, but a lot of people don't really know how this works. So they simply consume content mindlessly day in, day out, and they become the victims of that DDoS attack on their brain, essentially. The DDoS attack by all kinds of actors that want to control their actions, right? So this makes you not sovereign at all. You are not able to act in your best interest when your mind is not sovereign, because your thoughts and actions are not shaped by what's best for you. They are shaped by those people, especially by the parasites, uh, for whom it's best that you do certain things and that you live a certain life, you choose a certain career, you speak certain words, and you think certain thoughts. So I would obviously encourage you to think about this, because the sovereignty of the mind is very, very important. If not, basically, it may be the most important thing that you can start working on, and that means that you have to essentially unplug from all this stuff. I completely understand that it's very difficult to unplug from the internet or maybe the TV or the smartphone completely due to personal connections or business, but you can reduce it by a lot, or you can at least learn to control what you consume and be extremely selective. And rather than being reactive in terms of your information consumption, you can be a little bit more proactive, meaning that you select the information that you consume. In that way, you will start forming your own opinions, because you will start pursuing your own directions when it comes to information consumption. You will be learning about the things that you want to learn, and not things imposed by someone else on you. So this is the sovereignty of the mind, and I really think you have to worry about this, and you have to really take care to become sovereign. The next area of sovereignty is the sovereignty of body. And I also touched upon this in one of the episodes, but you cannot really be completely sovereign just by having a sovereign mind. Your body also has to follow, because let's imagine that you are fully sovereign in your mind. You think independent thoughts, and you are essentially an independent thinker, independent person, right? But then you don't take care of your body at all. And as we have talked before, your body is essentially a reflection of your mind. It's a mirror of your mind. The mind itself is not visible to us, right? We cannot perceive it. We can only we can perceive it only in another way, in more psychic way, I would say. But you cannot touch it or smell it or see it, right? So. But there are things in the material world that you can actually touch and see. That's why we have all these senses, bodily senses, right? And the very, very first thing that allows you to interact with the material world is your body. Your body is the temple of your soul, as they say. So you really, really have to strive for the sovereignty of your body. And what do I mean by the sovereignty of your body? Does it mean that your body is controlled and owned by someone else? Is it not sovereign? Well, as a matter of fact, yes. And there are lots of examples out there in which your body is not sovereign. For example, there are laws in many different countries that force you to do certain things to your body. For example, they force you to take up a certain vaccine, or you have to do this or that. There are certain religions that force you to essentially perform certain actions on your body that change the structure of your body completely forever. There are all kinds of things out there, and especially right now, it's becoming very discussed in all kinds of circles that the imposition of COVID-19 vaccines and stuff like that may be mandatory in some countries, or mandatory in different ways, not just by law, but for example by incentives. Whereas if you don't take the vaccine, you can't travel, you can do this, you cannot do that. You cannot essentially live a normal life, or a life that was considered normal just before all of this happened. And this has a direct effect on the sovereignty of your body. So it is not you who chooses what to do with your body, it is someone else, right? So this is obviously completely wrong. You have to take possession of your body, and you have to be you have to be the one responsible for it. At the end of the day, it is your body. The old saying goes, "My body, my choice." Although it's a little bit overused and even perverted, I would say. But things like eating properly, working out, and just not allowing foreign substances in your body that you wouldn't normally have or naturally have, right? Those are all the things that make up the sovereignty of your body. You have to take care you have to take care of your body to be able to essentially make it work together in tandem with the sovereign mind that you have. And that duo, that couple, the body and the mind being sovereign, make up a great mixture. It's a great combination. You will achieve a lot more or with both of these parts being sovereign rather than only with one or with zero, obviously. So, to sum up, the sovereignty of the body is extremely important, and you have to take measures to achieve it. The next part is the sovereignty in terms of security. So, what do I mean by security? Security is essentially the defense systems that you have in your life. Right now, of course, one of the main reasons for the government's existence is the security service, right? They claim to provide security for you, for their constituents. And while in older times it was true, right? Like the king could provide security to the people who lived in his kingdom. Then right now it's not really true, and you can see it with police and how they work with police brutality, with unconstitutional arrests in some countries, and it's a big mess. And as a matter of fact, by law, I think in the United States, police are not there to protect you. By law, they are there to enforce the law. So, which is a completely different interpretation of what the police is all about, and that's why very often they're just called law enforcement rather than a protection agency, for example, because law enforcement describes them exactly in a way that they operate. So, when you talk about the sovereignty. The domain sovereignty of security, you have to be able to protect yourself and not rely on the government, and that includes many different things. You can you can use your body and train your body in different defense areas like the martial arts, or you can learn how to operate firearms and learn all kinds of tactical exercises and things that essentially allow you to protect yourself using just your body or some certain tools that are widely available, like firearms or other weapons. But at the same time, you can also take care to protect your domicile, your house, and your loved ones with all kinds of security systems, right? Just build a fence, put a video camera and things like that. Those things they already increase your level of security, and thus they increase the level of your sovereignty in the domain of security. I think it's very important that you are able to protect yourself when the government is not able to do so. And as a good saying goes, is when seconds count, police take minutes to arrive, right? And this is a very extreme scenario, but it does happen. I think bad things happen, and you have to be ready for them before anybody else shows up. So take measures to protect yourself and the loved ones, and increase your sovereignty in the domain of security. The next domain of sovereignty is production. And by production, you can think of all kinds of production, but what I mean is rather something that actually allows you to sustain yourself through life. And the most important part of it is obviously food. You can produce your own food, and I'm not telling you to just retire into the countryside, although it's a really good idea, and start raising your own chickens and food. But you have to become a little more independent from what the reality of food production is right now, especially if you're a big city dweller, because if you understand how things work right now in big cities, everything, absolutely everything, depends on the supply chains. And supply chains can be interrupted by all kinds of events, deliberately or not very deliberately, in terms of forces of nature. They can be interrupted, and then there may be all kinds of bad scenarios like famines, because there's simply no food on the shelves of the stores. There was I believe there was some graphical content on the internet that shows that when the supply chain is broken, how much or how long people will last essentially without getting more supplies into the city, right? So how long will the food last if the supply chain of food breaks, right? And it's not a lot for an average large city. It's just a few days, literally 3-5 days, and that's it. You're out of food on the shelves. There's nothing else left, because right now, if you're not aware, the supply chain that is most widely used is called the just-in-time supply method, which means that just as soon as the stores run out of a certain food item, or not even food, it can be absolutely anything, that's when they resupply. So they don't store an immeasurable supply of food in their warehouses, like a year's worth or several months worth. They only store just a few days worth, and this is how it works. And that's why the supply chains are extremely important and are essentially very fragile. As a matter of fact, if you had a war, an outright war right now, I think the very first thing that a foreign country, the enemy country, would do is to try to attack your supply chains, because this is how you starve the population, and it's very dangerous. So I highly recommend that you look into this and look into how you can improve your production sovereignty, how you can start producing more of the stuff that you really need, the stuff that is essential to your survival, rather than relying on third parties that you don't even know. You can still rely on third parties, but for example, instead of going to your supermarket or a chain grocery store to buy your meat, maybe find a farmer or a butcher that you can become friends with and get the meat from that butcher. When the bad time comes, if it comes, you might be able to get meat nevertheless, even though other places run out of meat, because you make friends with a butcher, and he will have access to quite a lot of meat. I'm sure butchers store some of the meat for themselves too, and they may store quite a lot. And the same goes for everything else. In some countries, for example, it's very common to have your own water by just drilling a hole in the ground, right? You drill a hole in the ground, you have your own pump, and you have unlimited supplies of water anytime you want. So this is great as well. You produce this way. Some people grow vegetables and fruits for themselves, and it doesn't really require a lot of room, right? You can build a couple of greenhouses if you live on a relatively small piece of land, and you can grow some of those things too. So it's very important that you take care of production and increase your level of production, so you become more sovereign. So the next area, the fifth area of sovereignty, is wealth. And wealth is very important, and I actually already covered it. I think in one of the previous episodes, I talked about Bitcoin and how Bitcoin makes you a lot more sovereign than what you were before Bitcoin. And I think this one is quite straightforward. If you have money, you're a lot more sovereign than people who don't have money, because if you have accumulated wealth over the years, you can afford to lose your job and still be well off and survive over a period of the next several months or even years. Depends on how much you have accumulated, and this is essentially why you have to go after wealth. Getting wealthy is not about being rich for showing off. This is a completely ridiculous use case for actual riches, and I don't think that's the main reason why you should get rich. But I do believe that getting rich or wealthy is very important, because it will allow you to be more reliant on yourself rather than others. And if and when bad times come, you will be able to, strictly speaking, buy your way out of certain troubles, which is a very important, a very important card to have in your hand, right? I think it's very important. So take care of your wealth. Don't squander it. If you're in debt, the only recommendation I can have is just try to get rid of it as soon as possible and start accumulating wealth. And obviously look into Bitcoin and start stacking sats. The sixth domain of sovereignty is about brotherhood. And I also talked about tribalism in my previous episode, and this is exactly what it's all about. Brotherhood or tribalism is essentially a domain of sovereignty that I believe is very important, because at the end of the day, while I highly respect the book called The Sovereign Individual, I also covered that you cannot be completely sovereign, 100% sovereign all by yourself individually. You have to have a tribe, you have to have brothers around you who are on the same page, who share the same values, and who can help you out in case of trouble, and whom you can help in case of trouble. So this is very important, because we are social creatures. We have to have some kind of a social relationship with some people. Obviously, your next kin is your very close brotherhood. This is your kind of a family, right? Then you can extend it to certain communities, but also there should be some kind of brotherhood in terms of people who may not live in the same area, so not the same community, but who are from different places geographically, but who share the same values, who are on the same page with you, and who will be there when shit hits the fan, to be frank. So I believe that you have to establish such a thing. Get tribal, start a brotherhood, or join a brotherhood, or join some kind of an organization. I don't know what it can be. It's up to you to figure it out, to decide what you want to build and what you like. But the values have to obviously match, and all the members of that brotherhood have to share the values. There cannot be any infighting in terms of values, because the values will be the filter through which new members of that brotherhood have to come through. So you will become a lot more sovereign with the brotherhood, simply because you will have a group of individuals who will be out there and who will be able to help you in times of crisis, and whom you will be able to help as well, because obviously help should be mutual. Reciprocity is very important in this case. Raise your level of sovereignty with building a brotherhood or joining one. And finally, the last domain of sovereignty is legacy. Legacy is important as well. And why it's important? Well, think about the generational transition. think about what you're leaving for your family, right? Family is extremely important for legacy because whom are you leaving your legacy to, right? There's a lot of obviously there's a lot of people out there, and you can work all your life, acquire a lot of wealth, or do a lot of great things, and then build the legacy that way. You can, if you're an artist, you can build your legacy in terms of art, or if you're a wealthy individual who doesn't have a family, you can leave your legacy by being a patron of arts or sciences, or build schools and things like that. That's a great way to do it as well. But I highly recommend starting a family as well, and that way you will ensure that your legacy lasts, and train your family members and your kids to appreciate the family and to put it in the center of your values, of your value system, because family is something that's extremely important. It's actually the nucleus of society. That's why it's called nuclear family as well. You have to build a strong familial ties with the members of your family, and be close with them, because they are the closest people that you will ever have. And while it's extremely important to have a brotherhood of like-minded individuals, having a family is something that you have right next to you. They literally live under the same roof with you, and this is your personal little tribe, or not very little. Some families are quite big, right? So to these people, to your children, to your grandchildren, you will leave your legacy. And when you build that legacy, I think it will be extremely important to your children, because they will see what a man can achieve. They will see that it is important to not only be very egoistical and very selfish in terms of when you build your wealth and build your relationships, only take them for granted and only use them on yourself. But it's also important to pass them along to the next generations. It's important to take care of your family, and to leave something behind, because you know how some people want to achieve physical immortality. I think physical immortality is a lot less important than actual spiritual immortality, and the immortality in the idea. And when you build something important, when you build something that lasts forever, essentially, that is true immortality. People, especially your family, will remember you. They will be talking about you. This is my grandfather or great great grandfather, and this is what he did. This is true immortality that you should aspire to, not some petty physical immortality where you're able to enjoy the sensual life, the material life for thousands of years without any purpose, really. So these are the seven domains of sovereignty. I'll recap again. Those domains are the mind, the body, security, production, wealth, brotherhood, and legacy. Take care to study these. Take care to think which domain of sovereignty is not very strong with you, which one is more stronger, and work on achieving higher levels. Obviously, it's not an easy task. It's a lot of different areas of life that have to be covered and worked on. It's constant work in progress. It may take you decades, if not the whole life, to actually achieve very high levels of sovereignty in all these domains. But I guarantee you it's highly worth it. So get to work. I hope you liked this episode. If you did, subscribe at thegaia.co, and until next time.